Hey everyone, I'm Ashleigh Banfield and this is Drop Dead Serious and welcome to the Northern Outpost. I am just going to warn you that it is nightfall now and it is frog mating season and there are a couple thousand frogs just in the marsh outside the windows this way. So they make a racket and it's going to be pretty loud. I think you're going to be able to hear them. Yeah. That's the northern exposure for you. Anyway, huge details to tell you about in the Lynette Hooker investigation in the Bahamas. Today was like D-Day. I mean, I am so proud of the Coast Guard and what they did today. I am going to show you some amazing video of the Coast Guard descending on the Abaco's group of islands to search multiple locations for where they believe Lynette Hooker may have been hidden. And they believe possibly by her husband, Brian Hooker, because now it's officially a suspected murder. And the geolocating with Brian Hooker's GPS, like what a dope, right? The guy had a watch and the guy had some phones, and I guess he thinks he's smarter than he is, because the story he told everybody about his wife, Lynette, bouncing off the back of the dinghy and then, oh no, I couldn't rescue her. It's such bullshit. And the GPS data proves it. So now it's just a matter of going to where the GPS data had him, because his story was somewhere else, and actually looking for Lynette. And can I just tell you that they mean business. The Coast Guard Investigative Service is nailing this one. They are on it, and they have been for over 7 weeks, working 7 days a week. And I know it because I see the stuff they're doing on weekends at midnight, like they're working nonstop. And today, everything came together. 154-foot Coast Guard cutter shows up in the Abacos with a crew of 24 and I think another dive team of 12 or so. I mean, there was a lot of people that showed up today. They did not even anchor that Coast Guard cutter before the rigid inflatable boat, something called an over-the-horizon boat, it's one that goes really fast, was in the water and taking teams to search locations, multiple search locations. They didn't even stop down to go and check into their hotels. Like, they were just lightning force. It was strike force. It was so impressive. And I can tell you that they went to multiple different locations. Maggie is back, babe. Maggie is the canine cadaver dog from Broward County on loan to the Coast Guard for this project for the second time. She was there the last time I was there. She was back on the beaches and she was back on Lubbers searching different areas this time, because now we know Brian's story is bullshit. So now, it was a whole red herring boondoggle before. Maggie was searching based on a lot of what Brian said. Well, now we know what Brian said is garbage, and we're now it's a search based on what Brian really did, where his GPS took him. So I'm going to show you all sorts of things that Coast Guard was doing today. And because this is such a monumental day in this case, 7+ weeks, right? And the Coast Guard comes steaming in armed with all this information, going to specific locations that they know Brian's GPS took him to. I wanted to talk to Carly Aylesworth, that's Lynette's daughter, about, how this affects her. She's been waiting for someone to find her mom. She's gone through a birthday and Mother's Day, all without her mom. And this is a big deal. Like, suddenly when there's this much action, it just feels, well, I'll let her tell you, because Carly's going to talk to me in just a moment about what this incredible support team that arrived in the Bahamas today means to her. I mentioned to you in the last episode that they were bringing the tools, right? They've got dive teams. They've got a remote operated vehicle that goes underwater, an ROV. You'll remember that from all the MH370 coverage that we did years ago when that plane disappeared. So a lot of underwater searching. You're going to see all of that as well. They went to the Abaco Inn. That's where so much of this all began, right? The Abaco Inn, the place that has the video of Brian and Lynette leaving, but they won't share it. They've been ordered by the Royal Bahamian Police not to share it with anyone. Never mind, Coast Guard got some of it anyway. There's multiple cameras at the Abaco Inn. They didn't get all of it. They got some of it. But there's still more video, I think, at the Abaco Inn that would be very informative as to the exact time that Brian and Lynette left and what their body language was. In any case, Brian said it was 7:30. A couple minutes later, he says he's turning out the White Sound channel and she spills out the back and he got separated in big waves and wind and tide, which didn't exist because we have the proof of that. And so back they went today. The Coast Guard kind of is using the Abaco Inn as a launching area. They got a big dock there, a couple of big docks, where they can sort of come in and go out and get people onto Elbow Key where they're staying and get them off into everywhere around the Sea of Abaco where they're searching. There are many places, and let me tell you something. It was very cool that the Coast Guard cutter Margaret Norvell, named after a woman, thank you, that cutter ended up coming in north of Manowar Key. That's a lot further north than Elbow Key and Lubbers and Marsh Harbor, but it's sort of all within the vicinity. And then later, I told you it didn't drop anchor, right? I figured it'd drop anchor. Didn't drop anchor. It launched the rib, and off the workers all went, all the agents and the searchers and the divers. And then it actually made its way south. And last it was seen was off the east coast of Elbow Key. I showed you that picture, the last known picture of Lynette Hooker and Brian Hooker. They were at a pool at the Abaco Inn looking eastward into the roiling Atlantic Ocean. That is pretty much where the Coast Guard cutter was last seen. So it moved southward from Manowar Key, and it was seen off of Elbow Key. And one of those tender, if you have a big vessel and there's a smaller vessel that moves people around to the vessel, it's called a tender. And so the rib, the rigid inflatable boat, that was seen zooming into Toulouse Cut. So we know that one of the search areas today was Toulouse. Don't know if divers were in Toulouse, but I do know that one dive team spent most of the day that they had from the moment they got off the cutter, just off the eastern shore of Marsh Harbor. And there's a very specific place I want to show you. So one of the points of interest in Marsh Harbor is south of where Brian says he washed up. He didn't wash up. That's garbage. But one of the spots of interest is called Witch Point, as in Halloween witches. Witch Point. And north of Witch Point, there's this, if you look on a map, there's like a square hole of water, of dark water. And clearly it's not natural. So it turns out that is an abandoned old harbor, little man-made harbor, where boats used to come in and out of. But it sure is close to where Brian Hooker's dinghy ended up being, retrieved by the Volunteer Fire and Rescue, Hopetown Volunteer Fire and Rescue. Please give generously. They're all volunteer. And it's even further south than the boatyard, where he, nonchalantly lumbered in, looking around, peering in between things, and then saying, help, help, but barely even raising his voice. The day that he'd been marooned, right? Floating for 9 hours. If his story was true, it wasn't. So the dive team went to that harbor, that abandoned, cutout harbor today. And they took the ROV, they took the remote operated vehicle and put that underwater. And my guys were there to see it. In fact, they lent a hand. There was a lot of work to be done and a lot of crews doing a lot of things at the same time today. And they took today as a journey day to get from Florida to Bahamas, but then also as a work day. So they had limited daylight. But man, it was good to see these guys at work. Let me play it so you can hear the noise of the ROV and just see these guys at work. And when you look at these pictures, honestly, what comes to mind for me is that cute expression, not all heroes wear capes, because I know these people have been working so incredibly hard. And there they are. And there's little Maggie. Maggie is on board the Over the Horizon fast boat that's leaving the cutter and heading, for search locations. And so there she is on her way to work. She's going to be there for 4 days. Again, big thank you to Broward County for loaning Maggie to the Coast Guard to be able to do this investigation. I want to also mention that one eagle-eyed person spotted another vessel that was being launched by the Royal Bahamian Police Force. And this looks like one of the vessels that Lindsay and I saw when we were in the Bahamas at first coverage of this, 7 weeks ago. But they were launching that boat as well. So I'm assuming that this was in assistance with the Coast Guard effort, because listen, the Coast Guard effort had so much GPS data. They had a specific plan, right, for these next couple of days. So just a lot of boating that needed to happen today to get everybody where they needed to go. But I think that might have been what the Royal Bahamian Police Force was up to when they were launching that boat. And great thanks to the person who captured that. We also had a lot of images from friends of ours all throughout the Abacos. One person who prefers not to be mentioned sent me these photographs. So these were images that showed searching on the northwest part of Lubbers. There's been a lot of construction up there, a lot of damage from Hurricane Dorian. We spotted an abandoned pool. Actually, Nathan, who's been doing so much work for us, he walked up and down that area and he saw that pool too, showed you the video of it in one of our prior episodes. But these were now images sent to us by viewers and supporters who have been wanting to help out, have been offering their services to the Americans in any way they can, even as just local guides or to help them find boats or golf carts or captains or accommodations. So some great pictures coming in there. And then these images came from Captain Snow. Captain Snow, thank you for being a part of this. It's the first time we've engaged with you. So appreciate your images. You can see the Coast Guard and their crew on board the Over the Horizon boat. So let me talk about the northwest side of Lubbers a little bit, because, when the Coast Guard was originally there, Brian was feeding everybody such a line of bullshit that wasn't where they focused. And little Maggie didn't go over there and south of, the northern part of the island. And so Maggie's doing that now. And we got some really great images of Maggie at work over there. Real secluded, real secluded beaches, places where Brian and Lynette probably found some secluded, wonderful beaches in better days when they were paddleboarding and exploring the beautiful Abacos. So if you had to remember in the black of night where you'd been that was really good and secluded, and I don't know, a good place for a body, maybe that west side of Lubbers in the northern area, maybe that would be a good spot. But super interesting to just finally see, the Coast Guard investigators at work on the ground, Maggie back on land. One other thing that Maggie has to do while she's there is get a sniff of that dinghy. The Royal Bahamian Police Force has Brian and Lynette's dinghy from Soulmate. The dinghy is in impound. I don't know if the dinghy is outside or inside, but if it's outside, I really hope it's upside down, so that 7 weeks of weather hasn't, say, diluted the possibility of evidence or potential smell, something that Maggie could actually get a bead on. I don't know, but Maggie has to get into that dinghy and have a sniff. If you watched one of my earlier episodes, I talked about the length of time that a body has to have, how do I put this? The length of time it takes for the smell of decomposition to begin being emitted from a body after death, the kind of decomposition that a cadaver dog could smell. And the experts told me 3 hours. About 3 hours from the time of death is when a body will emit the kind of decomp that can be tracked and alerted on by a Maggie. So let's just say if, because we don't know, Brian Hooker hasn't been charged with anything yet, but let's just say if Brian Hooker killed Lynette Hooker, and then had to devise some dastardly plan to get rid of her body, how long did it take him? And how long might Lynette have been in the dinghy? Because if she was in there any longer than 3 hours, maybe, just maybe, there's something that Maggie will hit on. And let's just hope for a miracle here. Let's just hope for the best. Let's hope that they can find Lynette and bring Lynette home. And then, of course, you know what that means. It means Brian Hooker possibly in handcuffs. I say possibly only because I know how the feds work. It's different. Federal investigations, they get like 95% of their case figured out and then arrest. Usually in the state, you get like, maybe 30 or 40% of your case, and then you investigate for, I don't know, a year or two, and then you go to trial, or 3 or 4. But in the federal system, when you arrest, you're almost ready for trial in a couple months. So might Brian Hooker get arrested? Yeah, for sure. I mean, if they find Lynette's body, I think for sure. If they don't find Lynette's body, would he not be arrested? Hell to the no. You don't need a body for a prosecution. Let me just tell you, I've covered numerous cases in my 38 years in this business where there have been prosecutions, successful prosecutions, where the body was never found. Because there's all sorts of other evidence, right? All sorts of lying, all sorts of weird behavior in the middle of the night, right? All sorts of GPS stuff. If you missed yesterday's episode, you might have missed that Brian got himself a new attorney. Smart. Because this new attorney apparently used to work for the DOJ. So knows a thing or two about federal law, federal prosecutions, and federal oh shit moments. Because I think Brian Hooker's in for a federal oh shit moment really soon. So getting this new lawyer, probably smart. Don't know where, but apparently this new lawyer is based in Michigan. I don't know if he came back to Michigan from, caring for his sick mom, which is the reason he had to like bounce from the Bahamas instead of, looking for his wife, or never leaving, or it'll take a higher authority for me to leave here. Pfft, yet another load of crap. Anyway, he's been cooling his heels in Sacramento area where his mom apparently was ailing. I don't believe that either. I don't believe that he was there for her if she was ailing. But he's gone back to Michigan. He was spotted by some of his old AT&T associates. I won't call them friends. They don't like him much. And they told me, yeah, he was in Michigan, back in his hometown. But then he bounced from there again. And I think he was back in Sacramento, but then got this new lawyer based apparently in Michigan. So he probably came back to Michigan or did some serious Zooming. I don't know. I don't know what this guy's MO is. I just know he's shady. Because you know what? This is going to take a village. This guy was sneaky. Brian Hooker was sneaky. And you know how I can say that with aplomb? Because he was fired from AT&T for being sneaky, for masking his location, for lying and cheating and trying to hide where his van was by dickering with his GPS unit. He's a master of skulking. And so if he did what I believe he did to Lynette Hooker, he skulked around and tried to mask everything that came afterwards. But he's no match for the Coast Guard Investigative Service. He just isn't. And I don't think he's going to be a match for Maggie. So, couple of things I want to let you know about. My dear friend, now I love these new friends that I have through doing this podcast and this particular story, Dean Zomzow. Remember Dean and his 2 daughters gave us that video at night that was surveillance video that went out across the Sea of Abaco towards Elbow Key and had a beat on Soulmate? Saw all the activity at night, all the lights and the flashlights. Well, Dean actually knows some folks on Lubbers who were able to find clothing that matched the color of Lynette's bathing suit cover-up. Remember that aqua-colored bathing suit cover-up she was last seen in? No thanks to Brian for telling us, because he told the search and rescue folks, no, just a black bathing suit, just a 2-piece, nothing else. There was a navy blue, royal blue Conch Republic scarf she had on her head and an aqua-colored bathing suit cover-up. And it looked like she might have even had a black fanny pack as well in the picture that we saw of her at the Abaco Inn. So, Brian, you're full of shit. Anyway, it's apparent that some folks found an article of clothing that matches Lynette's shirt, and they turned it in to the Coast Guard. Not only did they turn in the actual item of clothing. They gave the coordinates of where exactly it was found. So smart thinking, whoever you are. I'd love to meet you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for helping. So again, this is northwest end of Lubbers, where all the searching was going on with Maggie today. They were also searching a little bit lower on Lubbers as well, but again, all the west side. So sort of mid Lubbers and west, because there's a lot of abandoned and secluded beach areas there. Real easy to come in and say, I don't know, an 8-foot dinghy in the dark of night. Anyway, clearly GPS locations have put Brian in this area because nobody'd be bothering with it if it didn't, right? So obviously, look, these images have a lot of effect on me, certainly, and I think they do on you as well. But boy, oh boy, do they ever affect Carly. Carly Aylesworth is Lynette's daughter, and I talked to her about what these images of this incredible response to her mom's case, what they mean to her. Here's our conversation. Quick word from my sponsor. When was the last time you actually went to the doctor? Not Googled your symptoms, not powered through it, actually went to the doctor. If you've been putting off a doctor's appointment because it's just too hard to find somebody good who takes your insurance and can see you soon, I get it. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can find and instantly book in-network doctors, more than 150,000 of them in 50 states. I've used them myself. There's dermatology, dentistry, primary care specialists. You can even search by symptom, and you can book in seconds. And the appointments typically happen within 24 to 72 hours. So stop putting off the doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/Banfield and find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Again, that's ZocDoc.com/Banfield. This message is sponsored by ZocDoc. Carly, this is a big day. American Coast Guard, they are there, boots on the ground. How do you feel about it?
I feel better this time. They have more of an idea of where to look and everything, so I have a feeling something is going to happen this time that they're down there.
And I'll tell you what, they didn't just show up, they showed up, with the 150 plus foot Coast Guard
Yep.
cutter, over 25 people with vehicles and ROVs and divers. And I mean, this was like an armada.
Yeah, I didn't know about the cars, but I knew about the swimmers. So that's wild.
Well, the remote operated vehicles are going to go underwater. I mean, they've been underwater even today.
Oh,
So,
those, yeah.
yeah. But this must feel like you're getting a lot of action on this case. These people are dedicated to finding your mom.
Yeah, it feels really nice to have all the support and everything and people helping look because there's no way I could do this by myself.
And I'll tell you what, seeing the Coast Guard arriving, they're being supported by a ton of locals. Like there are so many local folks from the Abacos in the Bahamas that are helping the Coast Guard. That's got to feel pretty special.
Yeah, it is. Especially when we went down there, they were really helpful when we were there, so it's just nice.
So here we are. You and I are talking. It's now 7 weeks and 3 days since your mom disappeared. And I'm just only imagining that you felt a bit helpless in a lot of that time.
Yeah, a lot of waiting to see what happens. But I know there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, but just time.
And you know how hard these guys have been working with
Hmm.
CGIS, the Coast Guard Investigative Service. I
Yep.
think I told you beforehand, they're doing 7 days a week.
Yep.
Well, talk to me about that. How does that feel?
That feels nice. Like it's not just a job to them, that they actually care and they're dedicated. And it's really nice because I'm glad they're taking it with this much seriousness because I can't do this alone. So it's really nice to have all their help and that they were really interested in doing an investigation to see like what actually went on. So I'm just happy that they're doing everything they can.
Were you surprised to see Maggie, the canine that went
Hmm.
back over, the Broward County canine that went back over with her handler, Chris?
Yeah, I'm glad she did. Mm.
So yeah, today she was over the west side of Lubbers. Last time she was on the east side of Lubbers because everybody was trying to figure out Brian's story, right?
Hmm.
Now they have a lot more data to go on. They've got actual data, GPS data from him. So tell me your thoughts about that as you have processed Brian Hooker's stories and his involvement in all of this. What sort of a conclusion have you come to?
Um, I mean, I always had an idea that his story wasn't truthful, but just knowing that there's now proof, like hardcore proof that he was lying, um, it just, I'm just happy that they're really looking into this now and were able to find out that information because I had a gut feeling, especially since those threats. So I'm just really glad that they did this.
Which threats are you talking about?
Just the ones from 2 years ago of him choking her and
When you're
threatening to kill her.
right, when your mom said to, I believe, her friend Rachel that he choked her, he bruised her, she photographed her own bruises on her back, and she said that Lynette said that Brian had said, I wished I'd finished the job.
Yep.
I mean, that's got to be really hard to process, knowing that she had struggled with him so often.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of saw the signs of her physically. Like, she lost a bunch of weight and she weighs like 130 now. And I remember being that type of relationship and I lost that much weight because of stress because of him. So I was like, I feel like all the signs are here, but they act like such a good couple in front of me. So, yeah.
When you were on board Soulmate, what is it, back in February, I think you took your trip to the Bahamas. Like, describe their dynamic.
Um, Brian was always really chatty. My mom, she wasn't as chatty as Brian, but I don't know, every time I would be with them in a family gathering, I would always be with my mom and hang out with my mom. And they always seemed fine. And if they started like having an argument, they would just like drop it and just kind of talk about something else. So I didn't really see anything bad. So I never got like a suspicion of anything terrible. Like I knew situations have happened, but I didn't think it was like an ongoing, repeated thing.
Do you find it extraordinary that Brian made one phone call to you to give you this load of garbage story about what happened to your mom and then just never was there again for you, never called again, didn't show up, didn't mourn with you what was going on, didn't ask you to come to the Bahamas to help search? I mean, it was literally just, he just vanished from your life.
Yeah. I mean, he did try. He called and texted, but I didn't respond. And so I think after being on the news talking about him, he decided to stop talking to me. So I guess he did try a little, but I wasn't buying any of the story or his fake empathy. Yeah.
What sort of outreach was there? Like, tell me what he said in his text messages before he went dark.
He said some lady can take care of Rosie and I because it was a group chat with the three of us. How she could take care of us. She's really nice, and that he wish he could be there for us, but he has to be there right now. And she's like, "I love you, Dad." I didn't say anything, and then yeah, that's like one of the last times I heard from him
So Brian said to you he needed to be where right now?
in the Bahamas looking.
Well, that was just week one. And then what about after that?
Then the next week I went at the beginning of the week, and he ditched
And
like
did you hear
that
from him
day.
again? Text messages, emails, anything? So he reached out to you in the very beginning when he had a story to tell that was bogus.
Hmm.
And then once he ditched the Bahamas, you never heard from him again.
Nope.
Again, just to remind our viewers, this is someone you've had as a dad since like age 3.
Yeah. I would call him like part of my parents because yeah, he's always been there as a father figure, even though I don't call him dad, but he's always been there.
Didn't he say in one of his recordings, or maybe it was a text to you, "Hi, it's Dad"?
Yeah. It might have been like a group chat with Rosie and I too, but I've never called him dad. I think when I was little, I called him dad, but then my dad was like, "You're not gonna call him dad." I was like, "Okay," so I stopped doing that.
Like your dad might have had some foresight there, huh?
He did not. He did not really was a fan of him either. But
So listen, you're one of the rare people who's actually been to some of those locations that they're searching in the Bahamas. You've been to the Abaco Inn, that's where they were today. You've been all over the water. You've been out sort of in the Lubbers area in the Sea of Abaco. You've been to Marsh Harbor. Do you have any thoughts as you start seeing pictures and video of these guys in the same place now, really with all the gear and all the manpower?
yeah, I just have a feeling that she's in the water somewhere with those scuba weights that are missing, but that's just my feeling. So I just, I don't know if she can be on land because I know it's all like limestone and that stuff is really hard to break through. So I feel like she might be in the water.
And if Brian did it, I'm not saying he did because he's not charged yet, but he had to work in the dark and didn't have a whole lot of time, you know?
Yeah.
And so it would be somewhere he'd have to know because you're not going to go exploring in pitch black with a, you know, 3 horsepower electric engine and an 8 foot dinghy.
Yeah. So I think she might also be at the Snappa's Inn or wherever that demolished old marina at the
Snapper
end of the
Point,
Snapper
Snapper
Point.
Point
Yep,
Marina.
yep, yep. That could be a place because I remember we went there and we explored around and took some pictures. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
They did that a lot, right? Like when you weren't there, Brian and Lynette would get on their paddle boards or they'd go and explore like remote beaches and off beaten track places. So he would have been familiar at least with several places around the Abacos because they'd been there already for about what, 9 weeks?
A couple months, yeah.
And did you see that there was a real like desire most days, like let's go out and go find places and go see stuff?
When it wasn't really windy, we tried to go paddleboarding. So one day we went paddleboarding. It was calmer in the morning. And then a couple days we like went by Marsh Harbor and just like went around in the little channels and mangroves. And another day we went up to that beach at Snappa's.
Snapper
I can't
Point.
remember.
So
Snapper
tell
Point.
me, tell me about the mangroves. You said you used to go into the mangroves?
A little bit. It's like off, like when you're looking at the restaurant in Konkin to the left, there's like mangroves you can like boat through. So we explored that, try to see turtles.
Okay, so he'd be familiar with the mangroves inside that area. And I always tell people it's like the where the mooring ball is just in the harbor off from the conch in. And so you're saying if you were staring straight at the conch in, it'd be over on the left and there's a whole mangrove area.
Yeah, little channels. And there's like a sunken boat over there. Yeah.
Well, that'd be a critical spot, you'd think, as long as the data, you know, puts them there. Because at this point, you know, it's nice to know that they're not just guessing based on how far could the boat go with this amount of battery and this kind of weather. They're now actually like basing their searches off where does his GPS information actually put him? Because that guy had a phone and he had a watch, and presumably he had some of your mom's stuff as well. That if he's guilty of this, he was trying to ditch.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable to think of it, but thank God though that the searchers have more to go on. You know that the
Yeah.
Coast Guard investigators have more to go on. Do you have like something that you'd want to say to them, Carly? I mean, these guys. One in particular, I know is working every Saturday and every Sunday, and all 5 days a week. And by the way, till midnight, 1 a.m. There's no time that he doesn't seem to be working on this case.
Yeah, I even talk to my contact sometimes in the Coast Guard, and I'm like, you're probably already 10 steps ahead of me. He's like, no, it's all right. Just whatever in data you have, just send it over anyways. I was like, okay. So I like know they're working hard and they've already thought of it. They're more experienced in this type of stuff. So I'm just glad, that they're working on it. But I have a feeling she might be in the trash because maybe Brian knew that cadaver dogs can't tell the difference between the trash and a person, or she's sunken down in the water somewhere. That's just my feeling, but I don't know how much that means.
Well, I can just imagine that you're very thankful,
Hmm.
for the hard work that these people are doing. And I mean, like I said, they got there with the Coast Guard cutter Margaret Norvell, and they didn't even anchor that Coast Guard cutter. They launched that rib and they were gone, and they were working already. I would say within maybe not even an hour of that cutter pulling up to the northern part of Man o' War Key. That's where it's deep enough for them. They draw like 9.5 feet, right? They're really deep, that cutter. But yeah, within like an hour, they were already at work. No settling in, no getting to the hotel, none of that. Just working. And that must feel really
Hmm.
good for you. You want to
Yeah,
tell them
it
something?
does.
You have a message for them?
I'm just really grateful and thankful that you guys are doing all you can to get to the bottom of this and keep investigating to get answers. Because a lot of people have a feeling that it was wrong, his story. So I'm just really glad that you guys looked into it and found as much as you have so far.
Do you have a message for Brian?
Um, Not really. I don't want to talk to him. Like, I don't want him around. I don't think he's been enough influence on my life. I don't think I want that type of mindset around me.
What do you hope is going to happen to him?
I hope he gets put in prison for the rest of his life. And I don't know. I know prisoners don't really like people who beat women because I worked in a prison before. So good luck.
Carly, thanks so much for talking with me. We'll keep in touch as they continue the work. It's going to be about 4 days. That's just the original plan, for the Coast Guard to be there. So we'll stay in touch, and we'll hope for a good result.
Thank you. Me too.
So I can tell you this. Hopefully the teams that are working, they worked late into the night, into the dark. I know that because some of those team members were delivered back to the dock after dark. So they worked really late. They used every ounce of daylight they could get in the Bahamas tonight, and then went back in the dark. They got an early start tomorrow morning. They're going to be out on the water at 8:30 in the morning, and they're going to a location back on Marsh Harbor. Today, I told you they were in that old abandoned, you know, square harbor just north of Witch Point. They're going to another location on Marsh Harbor tomorrow, another specific spot. And let me tell you, Brian Hooker didn't just wash up on Marsh Harbor, floating, with no propulsion. Oh no, I've been at sea for 9 hours because my wife fell off, blah, blah, blah. No, he washed up a couple times, which, is really hard to do if you don't have an engine and the sea is blowing you, right? And you're helpless. He's a U.S. Marine. Helpless. Yeah, he landed a couple times on Marsh Harbor. Now, how does that work? It works when you're full of shit, Brian Hooker. Tick tock. They've got you. And they're just finishing it up. Anyway, I'm going to take you to that location tomorrow where they're going to search as well. And look, let's all cross our fingers and say a prayer that they're going to find Lynette and bring Lynette home to her daughter Carly and to her mom Darlene. They deserve to have her back. And you know what? Everybody deserves to see Brian Hooker in handcuffs, because hopefully that's where this is heading. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for watching. And remember, truth isn't just serious, it's drop dead serious.